The year was 2154, a time of transition, where Earth stood poised between its history and an uncertain future. Once a planet of peace and flourishing cities, Earth's true treasures lay beneath its soil. A world of quiet country villages and expansive fields, where the bustle of technological progress had not yet reached the farthest corners, Earth's idyllic farmlands still offered a sense of solace and permanence. In these rural enclaves, the daily rhythm of life, the planting and harvesting of crops, the grazing of livestock, the simple joys of tending the earth had carried on for centuries, seemingly untouched by the shifting tides of history. But Earth was no longer as it had been. The world had changed. The gleaming towers of cities had grown higher and brighter, a testament to humanity's achievements, but out there, far from the lights of civilization, humanity's true heritage lay in the dirt beneath their boots. Yet even this was in danger. It had been a time of peace on Earth. A time where humans had forgotten how to truly fight. The last significant conflict, the Great War, had ended over a century ago, and since then, humanity had flourished in an age of prosperity and technological progress. But peace, as the Earth had come to know it, was not something to be taken for granted. Above them, in the void of space, a storm was gathering. The Zendari, a cold and calculating alien species, had turned their eyes toward Earth, seeking its fertile soil. For centuries, their home planet had been dying, their environment deteriorating at an alarming rate. Desperate, they began their search for new worlds capable of supporting their species. Earth, with its rich, untapped soil, became their next target. Terra's father, known as Jana, had long told her that the land would endure. The soil doesn't care who walks upon it, Terra, he would say. As long as we tend it with care, it will never fail us. This, he believed, was the only truth that mattered. Despite the rumors of invasion, of impending war, he lived his life grounded in the belief that, perhaps, if they kept their heads down and their hearts steady, the chaos of the outside world would never touch their little farm. But it was not to be. The Zendari arrived, bringing with them ships that blotted out the sun. Towering, gleaming monstrosities that shone with an unnatural light, each ship carrying within it enough firepower to raise entire cities. The alien species was not subtle. They announced their arrival with a roar, disrupting Earth's fragile peace in one fell swoop. In mere hours, Earth's defenses had been overwhelmed. Governments scrambled to respond, but the Zendari were too quick, too powerful. Earth's military might, which once seemed like a proud symbol of humanity's dominance, was no match for the invaders' advanced weaponry. The Zendari did not ask for Earth's cooperation. They demanded it. The resources of Earth, its soil, its water, its very biosphere were to be harvested for their own needs. And it was the soil, rich and untapped, that was their primary target. Without it, the Zendari would surely perish. Earth was no longer a symbol of peace and prosperity, but a strategic asset in the survival of an alien species. Terra was no stranger to hard work. Raised on a farm, she knew what it meant to rise with the sun, to labor through the day, to earn one's keep from the land. Though her father had always insisted that farming was enough, Terra had big dreams. She was young, bright, and full of ambition, dreams of a life beyond the earth and dirt of her father's farm, of seeing the world and exploring its mysteries. Yet, she also had a deep love for the land that shaped her, and she felt a deep connection to the legacy she had inherited. Terra's world was one of simplicity and beauty, where time seemed to slow, and every season brought its own rhythm. Her father, a man with graying hair and a weathered face, had always been protective, a quiet force in her life. He was a man who trusted the land to provide, who believed in peace and keeping out of the world's problems. His rule was simple: stay out of their wars, and they'll stay out of ours. Terra had always accepted this, even as the world beyond seemed to shift around her. She watched as technology advanced in cities, as news from across the globe filled the airwaves with whispers of alien ships and mysterious happenings in the sky. But Terra and her father were unaffected, tucked away in the peaceful corner of their world. But that was before the skies darkened. It wasn't long before the Zendari ships arrived above Earth, their enormous presence impossible to ignore. Terra's father, still clinging to his beliefs, refused to leave. He insisted that they would stay, that Earth was their home, and no alien would take it from them. He was wrong. Soon, as the Zendari descended, it became clear that resistance would be futile. One by one, the nearby towns and cities were evacuated or occupied, their inhabitants driven out, captured, or forced into submission. For days, the family's farm remained untouched, but the alien soldiers came, eventually. Terra's father stood firm, refusing to flee, but when the Zendari forces arrived, they overwhelmed him, taking him without hesitation. Terra was alone. At first, she didn't know what to do. She had been raised to keep her head down, to avoid conflict, to live a simple life. But now, her father was gone, and her world was in turmoil. She could no longer stay in her safe, quiet farm. The alien threat had torn everything she knew apart. The world outside her door was unrecognizable. Where once there had been quiet roads and fields that stretched for miles, now there were soldiers, alien craft, and displaced humans, fleeing in terror from the invaders. She knew she had to find her father, wherever he was, but she could no longer stay hidden away. She ventured into the nearby town to search for answers, only to find it abandoned, the streets eerily silent. There were no signs of life, only the echoes of a community that had been ripped apart by the alien forces. Her journey through the desolate landscape was harrowing. She witnessed firsthand the brutality of the Zendari soldiers, who marched through towns like locusts, stripping the land of its resources and driving humans into slave labor. Every step she took, Terra saw the devastation: homes burned, fields trampled under alien boots, and families torn apart. The air smelled of ash, and the sky was often overcast with the heavy, dark ships that loomed above.
But amid the chaos, she discovered something else. Resistance. Small pockets of humanity fighting back against the invaders. At first, it was a whisper. A rumor, but as Terra pressed forward, she found herself among those who had taken up arms in defense of their world. There were no grand armies, no organized military units. These were farmers, traders, students, and soldiers, all fighting for the future of Earth, fighting for survival. Terra's resolve grew stronger as she realized that her father had not been the only one to refuse the invaders. Meeting Kevi, a Zendari rebel. In an abandoned settlement, deep within a forest, Terra's journey took a dramatic turn when she encountered a wounded Zendari soldier. The sight of him, alien and strange, yet clearly injured and disoriented, was enough to send her heart racing. Her immediate instinct was to shoot him, to end the threat before it could escalate. Yet, something stopped her. She hesitated. There was something about him, something unfamiliar. He wasn't like the others. His eyes, though alien, were filled with confusion and fear, not the cold resolve of the invaders she had grown to hate. As he struggled, clearly unable to defend himself, Terra was forced to make a decision. She could leave him to die, as he likely deserved for what his species had done, or she could help him. Against all her instincts, she decided to help him. This was Kevi, a Zendari soldier who had grown disillusioned with the invasion. Unlike his comrades, Kevi had never agreed with the Zendari's aggressive tactics. He had seen the destruction firsthand on his homeworld, a planet now dying because of his people's relentless exploitation of its resources. When he was sent to Earth, Kevi had been filled with dread, knowing that this planet, the very soil that sustained life, was to be harvested and destroyed. Kevi had secretly joined a growing underground movement among his people, a rebellion within the Zendari military that opposed the invasion. And it was this rebellion that had led him to Earth. Kevi's story shocked Terra. She could not understand how anyone from the Zendari could be against their invasion of Earth. But as Kevi explained the truth about the destruction of his world, the endless depletion of resources, and the hopelessness of their future, Terra began to see a different side of the war. She realized that not all Zendari were her enemies. Some, like Kevi, were just as desperate as Earth's inhabitants, fighting for survival. The growing alliance, a shared cause. As Terra and Kevi traveled together, their alliance slowly grew stronger. The trust between them was fragile at first. Terra could not ignore the fact that Kevi's people were the invaders, responsible for the destruction of her life. But Kevi, in turn, was fighting not only for Earth's survival but for the survival of his own species, a species that had pushed itself to the brink of extinction through its greed. In the course of their time together, they became unlikely partners, sharing knowledge and strategies. Terra taught Kevi about the ingenuity of human resistance, about how humans could adapt, improvise, and fight when pushed to their limits. Kevi, in turn, shared insights into Zendari technology and military tactics information that could help them strike back against the invaders. Despite the inherent mistrust between humans and Zendari, they worked together, sabotaging Zendari forces and gathering intelligence. Small victories gave hope to Earth's resistance and further fueled Terra's growing belief in the possibility of peace, even with the enemy. The plan, a desperate gamble. As Terra and Kevi worked together, they learned of a secret Zendari weapon, a device capable of transforming Earth's rich soil into a resource for Zendari crops, forever altering the planet's biosphere. This was the heart of the Zendari conquest. If they destroyed this weapon, the Zendari would lose their primary reason for invading. The weapon was housed in a heavily fortified base, and infiltrating it would be dangerous, perhaps even deadly. But it was their only hope. Terra and Kevi knew they had no choice. The operation would require a mix of human and Zendari rebels, an alliance born of necessity. They gathered a ragtag group of fighters, humans who had lost everything to the Zendari, and Zendari who, like Kevi, were determined to see an end to the war. Their mission would be fraught with peril, and each step forward was a gamble. The climax, a battle for Earth's future. The attack on the Zendari base was nothing short of chaotic. They infiltrated the compound under cover of darkness, fighting their way through high-tech security systems and elite Zendari soldiers. The tension was palpable. As they approached the weapon, Kevi faced his own internal struggle. He had to decide, would he remain loyal to his people, or would he stand with the humans who had come to trust him? Terra, too, found herself torn between two worlds. She had come to hate the Zendari for what they had done, but Kevi's plea for peace tugged at her heart. Would destroying the weapon be the right decision, or would it only escalate the war? In the end, the weapon was destroyed, but not without consequences. Terra's heart raced as she watched the base explode in a massive ball of fire, knowing that her decision had sealed the fate of countless lives. As the shockwaves reverberated through the planet, the Zendari forces recoiled, unsure of what had happened. But Terra knew that their victory was not over yet. The war was far from finished. And though the future remained uncertain, she had learned that unity, no matter how fragile, was the key to survival. Resolution, a fragile peace. After the destruction of the weapon, Earth's soil was safe, at least for now. The Zendari leadership would retaliate, but Terra's actions had ignited a spark of hope. Kevi's faction grew stronger, and more Zendari rebels joined their cause. The human resistance, once divided, now stood united in their shared struggle for survival. Terra had changed. She was no longer just the quiet farmer's daughter. She was a symbol of humanity's resilience, a beacon of hope for those who had lost everything. And in Kevi, she had found not just an ally but a friend, who shared her dreams of peace, a future where both humans and Zendari could rebuild. As Terra and Kevi stood together, looking out over the world they had fought for, they knew that the road ahead would not be easy. But together, they could change the future.